Hello, everybody. Welcome along. My name is Benjamin Bloom. This is the Benjamin Bloom Football Show, covering the never-ending saga at the moment of the EFL Championship. And tonight is game week number 43. Game week number 42 only finished last night. So the review of that has gone up earlier today. We are live right now ahead of another weekend, and no word hyperbole, another huge weekend, because we are now 4 games away from the season ending, from promotion, playoffs, relegation, and all of those matters finally being sorted out. We've got a full round of 12 fixtures to go. Please, if you are in the chat, if you are here watching along with me, get your predictions in as we go along. A lot to get through. But first of all, let's have a little look at the league tables. We'll see how everything has been left after game week number 42. Let me just remove those 2 banners and we will see up at the top of the league, we have a 4-way race for automatic promotion. Unlikely as it might be with that 5-point gap, but those top 4 still all in with a shout with 4 games to go. Leeds and West Brom edging closer. We then, frankly, have 7 teams capable of finishing in those 5th and 6th positions. As far down as Bristol City, mathematically. The On the Beach League isn't much at the moment because Reading and QPR, well, they have definitely got their deck chairs and their flip-flops on. They're on the beach. Wigan obviously are facing a 12-point deduction. And Sheffield Wednesday, there is the FFP matters. So I'm not classing Sheffield Wednesday on the beach, and Wigan obviously aren't. And then if you look from Birmingham on downwards, obviously our key number there is 42. It's Barnsley. Remember, Wigan, if you take the 12 points off, will sit on 41 between Barnsley and Luton. So how was it added up? 4 teams in the automatic race. Then the remaining part of the top half, so 8 teams, excuse me, I must have got that wrong. Then 2 teams on the beach and another kind of 8 worried about relegation. If that all adds up, I'd be amazed, but there you go. Let's have a look at this weekend's fixtures. I will come to comments per game. We're going to have a look at the run-ins as well, because everything hinges on these last few games now. So tonight, indeed, teams are out there announced already. Hallewell, Luton at 6 p.m. and Fulham versus Cardiff, one of those games down the bottom, one of those games up the top. You're going to find with this load of fixtures, it's very much top teams playing top teams, top half teams playing top half teams, and bottom half teams playing bottom half teams as well. On Saturday, a nice load of games there. Charlton, Reading, Darby, Brentford, Barnsley, Wigan, Blackburn, West Brom, Hull, Millwall, Borough, Bristol City, Preston Forest, QPR, Sheffield Wednesday. And who is waiting until last this game week? Stoke, Birmingham, big game there. And Swansea versus Leeds, which I've got a ticket for downstairs. Obviously, in a parallel universe, I would have been at that game. And speaking of that game, that may be last on the TV schedule, on the game schedule. It's going to be first for us because, as always, we are going to work from the top down. So Leeds visit Swansea there. You can see 59% chance, says Infogol, of a Leeds victory. But look at the last 3 games for each team and 7 points apiece there. Swansea, Millwall, Sheffield Wednesday, Birmingham beaten, and Leeds, Fulham, Luton and Blackburn. So should be an interesting one. Leeds guys will be full of confidence, you would think, after the big 5-0 yesterday. Chris says, up the bees, cue the doubting. I'm not explaining myself again. Is this live, Andrew? Yes, we are live. Get your comments in. Lewis, we'll deal with QPR in a minute. Shout out to Jin, Mike, Colm there. Andrew says, Brentford remind me of Fulham 16-17, being in great form going into the playoffs, being the clear favourites, but they didn't win them. And his PE teacher is an Ipswich fan. I really did mock him when they bottled the playoffs. Very nice, was it? Has Ben recovered from the wine drinking last night? Yes, you'll be pleased to see I have a cup of tea here at the moment. How do we think Leeds and Swansea's going to go? Get your predictions in here. Luton need a big 3 points, else that's it, says Lewis. Let's have a little look-see here. Ewan says 4-0 Leeds. Lee says 2-2 Wales isn't a great price for us. Logan says 3-0. And Jay says 2-1 to Leeds. It's an interesting one. We've seen different approaches against Leeds. Obviously, Stoke tried to sit in yesterday, and for the most part in the first half, it worked. Swansea will not do that, will they? So this will be interesting because I think Swansea do have the capability to be organised and certainly have more chance of hurting Leeds if they can move the ball. But then, by the same token, you're going to leave yourself more open from a Swansea point of view. I don't think this is going to be all plain sailing for Leeds. Hey, if they go there and get the win, everything is looking lovely and rosy for them, nearly over the line. A couple of 2-0 predictions from Leeds. Enzio says, not a great record, but 3-1 to Leeds. They're not a great record in Wales, period, for Leeds, not just at Swansea. Realistically, 1-1. It's Leeds, 2-1 there. Swansea, S-House does at home, and a 2-2. So not entirely all behind Leeds here. Let's have a little look at the run-ins quickly. After this, Leeds do have home game there against Barnsley, and then the potential to go to Darby, unless Brentford are still perfect at that point, or Fulham have really edged in on West Brom then with a victory there. You would think if Leeds were going to have a draw, going to drop points in these games, this might be the one. Charlton there on the last day of the season. There's Swansea's run-in. Difficult couple for those two Swansea games there. Leeds and then Forest gets a little bit easier on the last two games. I think I might sit on the fence here. I think this might be the one that Leeds draw in the run-in here. Hey? Mightily impressive yesterday, so we'll see how it all turns out. But yeah, as the Leeds fans say, this is a wholly different challenge to any of the other games they've had, really. I suppose Fulham would be the most similar, but that was at home, wasn't it? There's no travel and the familiarity of home, despite the COVID settings. Now let's move on to game number 2, which is Blackburn versus West Brom. Blackburn had a great win over Cardiff in midweek, proving that they can beat upwardly mobile teams and away from home as well. West Brom are in very nice form, 3 wins in the trot. The bookies there, 52%, and Infogol, the nerds, 50% there. Again, we need to look in context because it's interesting now for West Brom. Everything hangs on that Fulham fixture. They really need to get a victory at Blackburn to give themselves that cushion, because any amount of slipping in the meantime, and that Fulham fixture becomes very big. Then Huddersfield and QPR look quite nice fixtures for West Brom for the last couple of games, don't they? Get your predictions in via the comments for this one. Blackburn have put the cat amongst the pigeons, really, with that win against Cardiff, because if they can take something against West Brom, then you look, Millwall's a direct playoff rival, but then Reading and Luton, they would be favourites going into both of those games. So don't assume Blackburn have nothing to play for in this one. Ewan says 3-1 West Brom. Com says 2-1 West Brom. Mike says it could be a difficult one. 2-0 West Brom, says Jack. 1-0 West Brom. 3-1 West Brom, says Logan. Pretty much everyone. There we go. I was going to say was on West Brom. Leeds 2020 says Blackburn there, and Jay says 2-0 West Brom. Do you know what? I don't think it's all going to be that straightforward for the top 2 teams this week. Hey, if they both go to these games and, go and get nice, easy wins. They're both away games. They're not easy. Tony Mowbray's a difficult, manager to go against. So let's see what Chris says. He's always got good something to say. West Brom very good away, and Rovers can be soft in defence. Lana says 1-1, and West Brom says 2-1. And Ewan articulates better what I was trying to say earlier. All of the top 10 playing each other. Mark says 1-0 Blackburn and a 2-2 there. I'm going to go for both of the top two to draw. There we go. That'll please Chris, the Brentford fan there. Leeds went to Blackburn, didn't they, and got a win very recently. Let's assume, just for the purposes of the automatic race, that these games are the more difficult ones left. I'll tell you what, if it is a draw for West Brom, if we bring that table up one more time, I'm sure I say one more time, we're going to bring it up many times throughout this. If it was to be a draw at West Brom and Brentford could get a win, more pertinently, Fulham could get a win, then Fulham and Brentford will go into that next game knowing a Fulham win. It's almost like West Brom have just got to get through these next two games without losing either of them, and it's going to be okay. But still get a 4-point swing in the meantime if Brentford keep winning. And frankly, they don't show any signs that they're going to stop winning. Should we talk about Brentford? Now, get your predictions in the comments for Darby versus Brentford. Darby were in super duper form with 5 wins on the trot, but the difficult running started for them and the results have tailed off. A draw against Forest in the 97th minute and then defeat at West Brom. I think the red card for Sibley rightly got overturned. Look at Brentford there. 54% chance with info goal. 5 wins there, but there's 6 straight wins. Remember, Brentford looking for the perfect 10. 10 wins in a row. And they might still not even make automatic. Incredible stuff. Let's have a look at the run-ins. Brentford after this. It's probably the hardest game they've got left, this one. No, it's the Championship, isn't it? Can't say that. But the teams get progressively lower in the league, let's just say, although don't assume that Stoke away 2 games from the end will be easy. But the way Brentford are playing, they could do it. They could do the 10 on the trot. For Darby, they're in the midst of this horrible run now. Still 3 difficult ones to go. The big one is the next one, isn't it? Cardiff, where they can take points off the person housed in 6th place. They need to win that one if they want playoffs. I would think if you're a Derby fan and I told you you're going to get 3 points at Cardiff, 3 points at Birmingham on the last day, and 1 point from one of these other 2 games, you'd probably be quite happy with 7 from 4 there. Let's have a look and see what your predictions are saying. Harry Bamford, there he is. Come on, you Rams, do us a favour. Jay says 1-1. Josh says 2-2. Ewan says 1-1. Now, he always predicts Derby to win. 1-1 says Jaggy. 2-0 Brentford. Lots on the draw here. Lots of people thinking the winning streak is over. Jack says 2-1. Last minute winner for Derby specific. 1-0 Derby. 3-1 Brentford. 2-0 Bees. And where am I looking? 4-0 Brentford there. 2-1. Some people thinking the Brentford slip comes here. Some people there, like Charlie, not thinking that at all. Jay says would be happy with 7 from 4 from a Leeds point of view. Absolutely. That's promotion, isn't it? 3-1 Brentford says grey area. Look, obviously I want this title race to keep going and going and going. I predicted the top 2 to draw. So let's predict Brentford to carry on winning, just so it all gets very, very exciting for neutrals like me. However, infuriating that will be for West Brom and Leeds fans trying to get this done at the top there. Remember, my predictions are half towards me having interesting stuff to talk about. But hey, when a team gets promoted, I will congratulate them. And I think the system we have does always pick out the best teams, doesn't it? Fulham versus Cardiff. That is this evening at 8:15. Fulham in good form. Look, 3 straight wins. Cardiff were looking lovely until that home defeat. 48% and 47% from Infogol and Betfair. I was at the reverse fixture of this in Wales. It was very slow and pedestrian. Obviously, Mitrovic scored, and Mitrovic will be back tonight. Harry Arter got sent off in that one as well, I remember. If Fulham win, they would go into the West Brom game with 4 wins on the trot in very, very nice form, and their star striker back in. Obviously, Cardiff had that defeat. Capable side. Let's have a look at the run-ins. I've got a bit of a fancy for Fulham. That's just taken tonight's game off there. So obviously Cardiff first, then the big one at West Brom. Fulham definitely need 6 points from the next 2. If Fulham get 6 points from the next 2, we can do some very straightforward maths and say 6 points from the next 2 for Fulham would leave them only 4 points off West Brom, because obviously that would guarantee a West Brom defeat. Remember that West Brom Leeds game earlier in the season? That was a draw from about 2 minutes in, wasn't it? Everyone was just happy not to lose that one. Cardiff's running, obviously Fulham tonight, and they big game against Darby, then off to Borough, and then Hull. So again, if Cardiff can get through those 2 difficult games, they have got lower ranking teams. Let's have a look and see your predictions for Fulham Cardiff tonight. Mike says 2-1 to Fulham. Alex says, when Harris last took a team to Fulham, Fulham completed over 1,000 passes and won 4-0. I remember way back in August, I was in France there. I had to be on holiday. 2-1 Cardiff, 2-1 Fulham, 1-0 Fulham, 2-1 Fulham, Fulham 2-0. Jack says 1-1. Chris said Cardiff looked leggy on Tuesday. 2-0 Fulham, says Marco. 1-1, says Chris. Very mixed. Very, very mixed. I'm trying to get lots and lots of your... Andrew says as well, do you remember the last time Harris came to the cottage? Well, he can't get the tactics any more wrong, can he? So, look, I've got to go for a Fulham win on this one. And you can see I'm just predicting everything that will squidge the top of the table up here. But we have a super chat. Jaggy, thank you, sir. I'll drink some of my tea to that, and I will bring up the banner that very quickly says, support the channel by using super chat like Jaggy has. You can subscribe on Patreon. New subscriber Tony today on Patreon. And if you don't want to support financially, which is fine, you can hit the like button and type a comment. All of that helps, and I know you're all doing that. And the support over the last couple of days has been fantastic. And I just want to distance myself from that accusation of this being a Leeds fan channel. Obviously, this is a championship channel and not a Leeds fan channel. Jaggy, you troublemaker. There we go. Ewan says, am I doing this game later? I'm not sure. I'm going to find out what HQ's doing and see what the plan is tomorrow. I'll definitely be doing a game either tonight or one of the ones tomorrow, but not sure yet. It's just never ending at the moment. Right. Ben says it's tea. It'll be Argentinian wine. God, after all those super chats last night, which I'm very grateful for, I was feeling a little bit drowsy after doing that. A 5-0 win for Leeds. Predictions, please, guys. Preston versus Forest. Difficult one to call this, actually, isn't it? Normally, if there'd been a crowd in Preston Stadium, you'd maybe make them favourites there. Preston first win in a while there at Sheffield Wednesday, coming back, puts them back in the edges of the playoff picture. And remember, Cardiff have a tricky game. They could well be dropping points this weekend. Forest have been a bit poor the last 2 games. They really should have beaten Darby, shouldn't they? And then came a cropper at the end there. And against Fulham there, just didn't seem to have the get up and go once they'd gone a goal behind. But they don't lose very often, Forest, do they? What did the boffins say? 45% chance Preston. The bookies much more even, a 37-33. Difficult one to call this one. Preston have Forest, Brentford, Birmingham, and then Bristol City to come. Forest looking to solidify to get themselves in that 4th versus 5th playoff. Some tricky ones. Preston tonight, or tomorrow, obviously. Then Swansea, that could become a direct rival if Preston win this one and everything tightens up a little bit. Then Barnsley away. I have a sneaking feeling Barnsley might be cooked by the second game from the end of the season. Remember, their last 3 are horrible, and there is a bit of a gap opening up. But anyway, tonight, Preston versus Forest. I think I might be with a close Forest win, a 1-goal Forest win. Jack says, I really fancy Forest to win the playoffs. 2-0 Forest. 1-1, says Mr. E. Where are we going? Here we are. J, 1-1. Ewan says 1-0 Forest. Yeah, everyone thinks there's not going to be much in this. Charlie says 2-1. 1-1 there. 1-0 Forest. 2-1 Forest. 2-1. Oh, it's very mixed. Enzio says 2-0. 1-1 there. 3-1 to Forest. Can we really see Forest scoring 3, Josh? Logan says 2-1 Forest, a 2-2 draw. They're very, very mixed indeed. I need to drink again to Teacoff IV. Thank you very much for a $5 super chat. Very, very kind. Thank you for the support. Jay says, I think Forest will win the playoffs if they have Fulham in the semis. Interesting. Vital fixture. Preston will be renewed with belief after 3 late goals, but Forest could scrape 1-0. I'm going with the latter there and a Forest 1-0. Back to I was going to say Karanka then. Back to Lamouchi plan there. Right, get your predictions in. Hull versus Millwall. We'd all had Millwall set up with the nice, easy run in. They're going to be the ones to make the late surge towards the playoffs. But they've got to win their games, haven't they? And they lost at home to Borough last time out. Having been unbeaten the previous 3, 5 points from 3, probably will keep you in it. Obviously, you're looking for that 2 points per game to really move up the table. Hull, well, little splurge of 4 points, but then 4-2 at West Brom and 2-1 at Bristol City. Get your predictions in. Hull versus Millwall. Millwall's fixtures remaining. We said it was a nice run-in. Compared to everybody else. They've got Hull, then are home to Blackburn, then QPR, and then Huddersfield. So direct rival in Blackburn, but pretty much everyone else they play is beneath them in the table. Hull, look at those 2 games after this weekend. They've got Wigan, and then they've got Luton. And they're in the position now, Hull, where it's probably enough to just not lose those games. You wouldn't fancy last game of the season, Hull, going to Cardiff, needing something to stay up. Look at the bottom there. Again, put Wigan on 41 points between Luton and Barnsley. And Hull do have a 3-point cushion. They just cannot afford to lose that game to Wigan, can they? Because as soon as that happens, not the great escape, but the greatest escape is on for Wigan then, isn't it? Mike says Hull 2-1. Logan says 0-0. Josh has got a Millwall win there, and so has Charlie, and so has Jack. Ewan says 0-0. It is Rowett after all. 1-1. 2-0. Alex says Hull to win 8-0, and I think he's a Millwall fan. 2-1 Hull, says grey area. 2-0. There, 1-1 draw here. Hull scoring goals, but losing. Millwall not scoring so many. Chris says Romeo, Murray, Wallace and Bennett all doubtful. Need to bounce back from an unacceptable performance versus Borough. I think our players don't care about the playoffs. Couple more. Nat says 0-0. Cole says he has no idea. I'm going to go for a Gary Rowett-ish 1-0 win to Millwall with, I don't know, Sean Hutchison scoring the rebound from a corner or something of that nature, and Millwall to keep pushing on there. Although Hull have shown some small signs of improvement recently, haven't they? Moving on, our next one is Middlesbrough versus Bristol City. Bristol City, as I've said, mathematically is still in the playoff race. Borough there, I know one of those victories belongs to Jonathan Woodgate, but 9 points in 6, and more importantly, 6 points in 4 since Neil Warnock showed up there. That's absolutely fine. 1.5 points per game, and you've got to get victories. And the mathematicians and the bookmakers have Borough at favourites there, 48% and 47% there. Let's have a quick look at the run-ins. Again, Bristol City, are they going to make the playoffs? Probably not. Are their fixtures winnable? Yeah, some of them. They're above Borough. They're above Stoke. They're in and around Swansea and Preston, who are direct rivals. It just depends whether they are a captainless ship at the moment. Lee Johnson has gone and Dean Holden is the caretaker manager. Warnock looks like he's on his way to having Borough safe, and the fixtures look okay, don't they? This one against Bristol City, that's a team possibly on the beach next week. Reading are already on the beach, and so is Sheffield Wednesday. Well, a couple more points for Sheffield Wednesday to weather any FFP loss if they're found guilty. And Cardiff as well might still have something to fight for, but remember, Warnock has very much insider knowledge on that. Predictions here: Borough versus Bristol City. Leeds 2020 says a 2-0. 2-1 Borough, says Jay. 1-0 Borough, says Jack. 1-0 Borough, says Colm. 1-1. 2-1. 1-0 Warnock, says Ewan. 2-0 Bristol City. 1-0 Bristol City. 3-0 Bristol City. 2-1 Borough. 2-0. Borough are not a good side, but Warnock has them pressed, and we know exactly what Warnock's going to have them doing. I'm going to go for a Warnock victory in this one. I just can't see how Dean Holden is going to beat Neil Warnock in a 90-minute championship slug, even though they've probably got a better first 11. So I'm going to go for 2-1 to Borough in that one. Moving on to Charlton versus Reading. Reading on the beach. Charlton still in trouble. Charlton came back with an excellent run of 7 points in their first 3 games. That might see them safe, to be honest. Now it's slowed down a little bit beneath them. Reading have been on the beach. Then they had that ridiculous 5-0 win at Luton. 0-0 at Huddersfield, but Huddersfield are doing everything they can to draw every game 0-0 at the moment, aren't they? Look how evenly the Boffins have got this one. 37% to 36 on Infogol and 36 to 34. They've got Charlton by the shortest margin. Charlton's run-in says Reading, Birmingham, Wigan, and then Leeds. They need 4 points from those first 3 games, although there is still a scenario that last game is a dead rubber for Leeds and they're already up by then. It might not be, in which case it wouldn't give Charlton much hope of going there. Well, on the beach, nice running though for a beach team. No top sides in there unless Swansea can work their way into the top 6 by the last weekend. Let's get a look. Colm says 3-1 Reading. Jack says 2-2. Jay says 2-2. 2-0 Charlton. 1-0 Charlton. 0-0 says Ewan. 2-1 Mike. 1-0 Charlton. 1-0 Charlton from Leeds 2020 and Badger. 1-0 Anorex. 2-2. 3-1. Andrew says, what app do I get all the stats off? It's a mixture of Infogol, BBC, and Who Scored is where I get my stats. Always open to ideas of different places to get them. I think this is going to be a weird one, and Katie has kind of stolen my thunder there by saying 2-1, where Reading actually play to their attacking players' potential, and Nijaria and Swift and Maite, Bulldog, whoever's up top, Puskas for Reading, and they do we're not going to have many chances, but we're going to finish them all. So I'm going to go for a Reading victory, maybe a 2-0 there. Jack says, Bowie deserves a top half championship job. Great work with his hands tied behind his back. Yeah, I think he'll probably get one. Yeah. And Chris says, Charlton to edge it there. And Sean Thank you, sir. Let's drink to Sean. A €20 super chat. Thank you so much, Sean. Very, very kind. Thank you, everybody, for the support, the comments, the likes, and the super chats. Wonderful stuff. Thank you so much. Right, couple more to do, and then we'll go Q&A. QPR versus Sheffield Wednesday. This is nearly the on-the-beach derby, isn't it? QPR are definitely on the beach. Look at their streaky win-loss business at the moment. Sheffield Wednesday, I keep saying, they could get found not guilty of FFP, in which case they are straight on the beach for my money. But still a little bit of a worry for them. And the rate they're losing games as well. 3 defeats on the trot for Sheffield Wednesday. In for goal has got QPR there. Both these teams are strange because they're both very much capable of scoring goals, aren't they? Wednesday with Bannon set plays and Mayhew and Murphy and I think Fletcher's around. And QPR with say Bright aside Samuel and they as a team type as they've got. Difficult one to call, isn't it? Let's quickly look at the run-ins. Rangers, well, they're on the beach, doesn't really matter. But Wednesday, Luton, Millwall, difficult one against West Brom on the last day. Sorry, did I say Wednesday? I meant QPR there. Wednesday, obviously QPR, then Huddersfield, Fulham, and Borough. Wednesday do still need some points, though. Let's have a look at your predictions there. Logan's after a goal fist. 5-3. I think it was 5-3 between QPR and Barnsley, wasn't it? Gay says 2-0 QPR. Ewan says 1-0 Beach FC. I assume that's QPR. 1-0 Sheffield, says Josh. Don't say it in front of a Blade or a Wednesday. They like the full name used. That's the Bristol City and Bristol Rovers fans. 0-0, says Charlie. 1-2. Lee, looking for the on the beach, 8-all draw there. 2-1 Wednesday, 4-0 QPR, 1-0 Wednesday. Very, very mixed indeed. Badges, imagine if Leeds need a point to go up and Charlton need a point to stay up, will the ball get out of the centre circle? No, it would be very much like that Denmark versus, who was it, Uruguay or something in the World Cup in 82 or 86. Someone will let me know in the comments. But they just basically stopped playing with 6 or 7 minutes to go. Chris says, Eze and Samuel evidently are protecting themselves from injury, expecting to be transferred. Interesting. Katie says, Porter or a goal thriller. Yeah, we all have that feeling, don't we? Moving on, we've only got a couple more to go. That's a big one. Look at that. Barnsley versus Wigan. Barnsley, spotty. Look, lost, win, draw, win, lost, draw. All over the place, really. Created a high XG, but still could have lost against Luton. Harry Cornick missed a chance towards the end of the game. Wigan, say no more. They've been in outrageously good form for the longest time now, Wigan, and they're looking to do the greatest escape with -12. But the fixtures are okay, and Wigan know if they take 7 points from Barnsley, Hull, and Charlton, that they could just do it. Would be incredible. You wouldn't fancy it all riding on Fulham with the last game of the season there. Barnsley, it gets hard after this one, doesn't it? Look at that, Leeds, Forest, Brentford. Some sense that Barnsley, if they don't win this one, and I mean, I did say this after the Luton game, that Barnsley are cooked if they don't get a 3-pointer very, very soon. Jack says 3-1 Wigan. We just got a drink quickly. Andrew says, thank you, Andrew. Drink to you, sir. Watching since 2018. Great stuff, Ben. Come on, Fulham. Thank you so, so much. Made friends with a lot of Fulham fans watching them in 17-18. Great side. Germany versus Austria, was it? Yeah, my memory's not that good. 3-1 Wigan, Ewan. 2-1 Wigan, Jack. 2-1 Wigan, Cole. Eli, dear. thinks we're going to win 3-1 as well, and he's a Barnsley fan. Everyone is on Wigan. Goodness me. Wigan 2-1 from Mike and from Logan. Alex says Barnsley have to get something here, 2-2. 2-0 Barnsley. Some mix. The greatest, it's not the greatest escape, Jake. I can't talk. It's not great escape, Jake. It's the greatest escape. If they do this, will be absolutely sensational, won't it? Watching QPR Wigan on Wednesday, got to see more. He seemed a hell of a player. Massive guy, but on the ball and relatively fast. Why isn't he more prolific known? Well, he's known to Ipswich fans, put it that way, because we had him, and he's known to Barnsley fans as well. He's doing a bit of an Ian Wright, I think, and coming through late. So, yeah, good luck to Kiefer Moore. Great goal he scored. Chris says, may watch this game instead of Millwall, Wigan to win, but Barnsley played well at Luton. 80 Wigan fan, the only one that's not entirely confident. Only predicted 1 Wigan win. Well, Katie, you may know more about Wigan than me, but I'm on the Wigan greatest escape train. I'd love to see it. So, sorry, Eli, in the chat. I'm going to go for another Wigan victory. And if Wigan see this out, their form from basically about 15 games ago will be Champions League form, won't it? Outstanding stuff. But moving on, Stoke versus Birmingham. This has got very big all of a sudden. And Birmingham don't have a manager. Can Stoke pull Birmingham down further? Can Birmingham stand on Stoke's head to push themselves out of the relegation swamp? Sorry, a bit of a gross analogy there. Birmingham just aren't winning, are they? Look at that, 3 straight defeats and Klotek gone now. So he was a dead man walking, but now there is no manager there. I don't know. Was someone joking me when they said it was Craig Gardner now in charge, or Gary? I can't recall. Who's running Birmingham now? Stoke, spotty, draw, win, draw, loss, loss, win. Shows they can win games at a more frequent rate than Birmingham can. The thing for Stoke is how traumatised are they going to be by absolutely getting taken to school by Leeds. They'd had their crisis meeting, then they beat Barnsley 4-0, and then lose the next game 5-0. There's some weird mental fragility at Stoke in that dressing room. It happens at clubs sometimes. Going to be a tricky one to call, this one. Before I look at your comments, I will flash up the table just so we can see the scenarios for both results. So a Stoke victory would move them above Birmingham in the table. It'd be a good jump for Stoke, likely a couple of places given the other games happening, and that Huddersfield are playing Luton themselves. If Stoke lose, it really is only going to take 1 victory. But I've just predicted it's going to be Wigan to get that victory. But let's do some quick maths. -12 is 41. Add 3 would be 44. And then all of a sudden, Wigan would be within a game. And we know they then play Hull, don't they? Incredible stuff down the bottom there. Hey, it might be all done up the top, and we might just be watching down the bottom there. Get your predictions in there. Chris, I did click on your comment, Chris. Stoke capable of goals at home. Brom's defence has been poor lately. If Wigan stay up, doesn't the points deduction carry to next season? No, it does not. The points deduction only carries to next season if they are naturally in the bottom 3, which they will not be because they've already scored 53 points, haven't they? So remember, the carrying of the points deduction is to stop teams waiting until they're relegated and then putting themselves into administration. 0-1 Birmingham last winner. Logan says 5-0 Stoke, and the randomness continues. 1-2 Birmingham. 1-1 there. Lee. 2-0 Stoke. 2-0 Stoke. 3-0 Stoke. 2-0 Blues. 2-0 Blues. Plenty of different predictions here. 3-1. I'm just going to read this one because it says great show, Ben. So thank you. Grey area there. And I'm on the Wigan bus, like I said, but we're talking about Birmingham versus Stoke. God. I'm going to go for Stoke, and I don't know why I keep doing it, just on the basis they have good players, but there's something weird in those players' heads at the moment, isn't there? Let's go on to Huddersfield and Luton. And we can go into quite some detail on Huddersfield and Luton because I do have the teams. We won't go granular on it. Don't worry. Huddersfield have decided after the Forest game that they're not going to concede any more goals between now and the end of the season. And from what I've heard, those Preston and Reading 0-0 draws were dire. But they're doing what it takes. Can Luton score? I think it's either going to be 1-0 Huddersfield, 0-0, or Luton will win 3-0. It's going to be a weird one. Let's have a little look because we've got the teams there. Is Trevor Chalobah really playing right back? My God. Overqualified right back, dear me. Chelsea central midfield loan there. Stankovic, Schindler, Toffolo across the back. Hogg, O'Brien. O'Brien will play. Oh no, he won't play further forward because Smith Rowe's starting. Grant, Willock, Smith Rowe, Campbell. The rest of the Huddersfield team should be quite attacking on paper, shouldn't it? There you go. They're getting those 0-0 draws hand over fist there. Sluga, Bree, Carter, Vickers, Bradley, Potts, Ruddock, Berry, Elliot Lee's playing, Shinnie, Collins and Cornick. Nathan Jones going for a win there as ever. The old 4-4-2 diamond returning for Luton. Let's just check run-ins here. That's not the run-in, sorry. Huddersfield, obviously Luton tonight. Sheffield Wednesday. West Brom, Millwall away. Just a few more points needed, you think? Can Luton pull themselves out of it? Well, they'd need to start winning tonight, preferably. QPR on the beach. Hull, big one, that one, isn't it? So Hull have got Wigan and Luton, haven't they? Incredible. And then Blackburn on the last day of the season. Let's check your predictions in this. 2-1 Huddersfield, 2-0 Terriers, 0-0. Must win for Luton. Weren't great the other night. Not expecting a classic. Ewan says 0-0. 2-1. 2-0 Huddersfield. 2-0 Huddersfield. 1-0 Luton. 2-1 Luton. 0-0. 2-0. And a 1-1. What am I going for in this one? I'm going to go for Luton just because I'm a massive idiot, basically. So let's say Luton 3-1, just some randomness there because they do pull out the odd strange attacking victory. Okay, guys, let's take one more look at the league table before we go into Q&A. So as I'm putting it, a 4-team race mathematically for automatic, but nothing matters if Leeds and West Brom keep picking up 4 points every 2 games. It isn't going to matter. Leeds need 7. West Brom need 8. All hope is hanging on Fulham versus West Brom next week for the chasing pack. Brentford can only keep on winning. That's all they can do, and see what happens above them. They're going to go into the playoffs in good form. The rest of the top half, Forest looks safe in the playoffs, don't they? 5-point gap. From then on, Cardiff, Swansea, Preston, Darby, quite tight, and Blackburn and Millwall could play their way in. Bristol City close to the beach, probably only a defeat and a result against them going towards the beach. Reading and QPR are on the beach. Wigan are down there in that bottom 3 looking for the greatest escape. Sheffield Wednesday probably need a win and a draw from the last 4 games just to be able to absorb. Maybe if they were to get a 12-point deduction, I'm not saying they're guilty, they need just a few more points to possibly absorb that. And then, unless Luton, Wigan or Barnsley start winning something, that 3-point gap is not going to go anywhere, is it? So Barnsley have basically got 1 game to start winning before their running gets very hard. Luton have got decent games. Wigan have got decent games. Hull is the one. Hull have games against Wigan and Luton. If they can, Wigan and Luton I'm talking about, beat Hull, that would be the way Hull will get drawn into that. Right. If you have any questions, I will take them now. Any topics to talk about? Thank you, everybody, as ever. I'll do my normal plugging here. And, oh, crikey, as my Mac tells me, I need to plug it in. That wasn't very clever. There we go. Everything's gone a bit brighter now. What was I going to plug? Support the channel by using Super Chat, which a few people have done. I'm very grateful for. And you can subscribe on Patreon. As I said, we had a new one today, which is great. 26 Patreons now over there. Also, if you don't want to support financially, which is fine, hit like and just comment and share and tell your friends, and we'll try and grow the channel. We're on 9,500 subscribers now over on YouTube and 7,000 on Twitter, so it is growing nicely, but it's very, very much down to you guys really spreading the word and helping it grow, really. Remember, we're a championship channel here. We're not talking about Man United and Arsenal and Man City. So it is, I don't want to be snobby, but it is real football fans that watch our teams that we talk about here and come and support this channel. So I thank you very much for all the support, and I implore you to continue doing so. Let's have a look at some questions. If Brentford go up, do you think they're big enough and have the funding to retain their top players or bring in enough talent to stay up next year? Bailey, I don't think they're big enough, but I also don't think that matters, because I think there's different grades of football club in England. And once you push yourself into that club in receipt of parachute payments, you are on a rung above all the other championship clubs. Your club changes when those parachute payments come in. I know they can be wasted, but compared to the rest of the championship, you're now on a higher plane. So even if Brentford do go up, even if they sell Ben Rama, even if they're relegated and come back down with parachute payments, they continue that recruitment. They've basically played themselves over the space of 5 or 6 years from being a small championship club into a big championship club, and I wholeheartedly applaud them. Obviously, they'd want to stay up, but it might just take some yo-yoing and being in that bracket of a parachute club, like a Norwich or a West Brom. They keep themselves bigger than the other championship clubs, even though they're not bigger than the Premier League clubs, if you take my point. Jack asks, what do you think, or who do you think, rather, should get the Blues and Bristol City jobs? This will be very, very interesting. Obviously, Blues went for a European guy, but he'd had lots of jobs in Ipswich in England. Pep Clisette got Ipswich on the brains because I looked at the scarf. I just wonder whether both of them will go experienced, i.e., it'll cost them, but Houghton, McCarthy, Bruce, Karanka, any of those names, whether they'll go current championship type Lee Bowyer, or whether, I don't know, Gareth Ainsworth or someone from League One gets a shot. Joey Barton, who's done well at Fleetwood, hasn't he? And he's a big name as a player. So it'd be interesting, or whether they go European. I really, really don't know, because clubs often switch what their approach is going to be. Charlie says, I think Oxford 2, Wycombe 4. That is your playoff final prediction. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. On Monday night is the League One playoff final already. Hey, like the video? Yeah, if you don't mind doing that, that'd be great. Hit that thumbs up button. Alex says, last game of the season, Carl Grant scores the only goal in a 1-0 win at Millwall to relegate Charlton. You heard it here first. Get your money on that. Lee says, I just think 13 straight wins is almost impossible at championship level. Remember, you actually don't have to win games to win the playoffs. I know you have to win the tie, but remember David Wagner's Huddersfield, they didn't win any of those games in 90 minutes, did they? They drew all of them and then won on penalties in both of them. But there could be a scenario where Brentford have to win 13 games or win 10 straight games. And then, look, they're going to get into the playoffs whether they win 10 straight games or not. It's probably 10 straight games to get up, isn't it? But, yeah, absolutely unprecedented. I did do a video, check back earlier in the channel, on the longest winning streaks in the Championship. And it is actually Aston Villa from last season with 10. So they would be matching the biggest winning streak in Championship history. And I will say inverted commas, since it was called the Championship in 2005. So 15 years we're talking. Andrew says, do you think fans will be let in even if not at full capacity in September or when the new season starts? It's a difficult one. Fans are definitely going to be there sooner rather than later, given everything else trying to ease down. So only a second spike is going to stop that and, the country going back into lockdown, and I'm not even sure if the country goes back into lockdown. I think it would just be localized stuff. Now, it's a difficult one. I don't know how they do it. Whether they say if you buy a season ticket holder and you're not either shielding or elderly, you can come in, maybe season tickets. I don't know what they do. And then they open up, you can only sit every second row, and you have to row to the ground an hour early, and you're seated by a steward, one here, one here, one here, and you're told, you sign a waiver to say that if you go within 1 metre of another fan, that's your fault. I don't know. It's going to be a lot of red tape, but they're going to want fans in ground. We're already seeing, the players and the staff or whatever sitting a few apart. I guess it's just getting people in and out. And I mean, I know Andrew's a Fulham fan. For an example, at Fulham, what you're going to need to do is it'll be like a theme park, won't it? Where where you walk in and you go round and round and round. I think it's going to be that you're going to be turning up at the game an hour early to queue, basically, to maintain social distancing whilst entering and exiting ground. It's going to be an interesting time. Let's have a little look, see what else we've got coming in. Jay says, I favour Forest in the playoffs. If Leeds are up, I'll be rooting for them too, because they are a big club. There's other reasons for favouring Forest, and their ability to absorb 15, 20 minutes without the ball and then go and score will do them nicely in the playoffs. Remember, it's not the team with the most possession or XG that wins the playoff. It's the team with the most goals. And Forest have been very good to that. And 360 adds Forest have the best head-to-head between top six clubs, which would, you would think, predict a good playoff side, wouldn't it? Andrew again asks about Jukanovic, another championship job, and if you could place him at a club, which would it be? Maybe a relegated club. Aston Villa, if they get rid of Dean Smith, although I wouldn't get rid of Dean Smith, because Dean Smith is not responsible for what came before him and Dr. Tony and having to borrow a promotion team and then spend all the Premier League money buying them just to make it as good as the Championship team. I would keep Dean Smith, but yeah, Jukanovic has got form now. He's got 2 promotions, hasn't he? And that last Fulham team were outstanding, weren't they? White Hart Dane says, amazing how Bristol haven't had a top flight team for nearly 40 years. Well, Bristol City need to get this next hire right, don't they? Day says, I know you'd rather lose the smallest club, Ben, and see Brentford go up. Stop it. Stop it. I always say, may the best team win. And I'm a fan of good football and good footballing teams. Mike says, clubs who move to new stadiums often struggle for a season or two. That's very true. Do you think that might affect Brentford? Possibly. Yeah, possibly. It has been a thing with other clubs. And especially with someone like Brentford, with a ground as unique as Griffin Park, to move to a ground that's going to be, and it's the right thing to do for Brentford. They need to, push the hospitality side and build those revenues. And they're a bit closer to the A4, with their new stadium. But yeah, it can really affect teams, can't it? Be interested to know who was the worst team moving to a new stadium. There must have been a team that just couldn't win in a new stadium. Freddie asked, do you think Leeds would be able to give a good account of themselves if they are champs and play Liverpool in the Community Shield? What is this thing about Championship champions playing Premier League champions? I hadn't heard about this, but well, it's a friendly, isn't it? Everyone gives themselves a good account of themselves in a friendly, don't they? Except my team Ipswich was in a Charity Shield twice, and I think we lost 5-1 and 4-0 or something. I'm sure one of the fans will remember. We were playing Brian Clough's Nottingham Forest and possibly Liverpool. I can't remember. Oliver says, Huddersfield about to start. How did I predict this one? We tend to lose games to lower teams. We always do it the hard way. Oliver, I did think I went for Luton, but to be honest, my predictions have been very cantankerous today. I've just done everything I can to predict the table and concertina in and squishing up again. Let's have a little look here, see if we've got any more questions that I have any hope of answering. Ewan says, hopefully Derby Wednesday and Forest go up next year. Lots of big teams down in the Championship. Katie says, in December, I didn't think we were going to stay up. She's talking, we're going to wanted Paul Cook to be sacked and we were rock bottom. To go on a run, to stay up for me would just be a bonus. This season has been a roller coaster. Yeah, I think everybody feels for those Wigan players and particularly for Paul Cook. And in fact, when we're talking about those Bristol City and Birmingham jobs, why not Paul Cook now? He's proven himself with this last run at Wigan and keeping them up last season and getting them promoted from League One. Yeah, there can't be many managers who've outperformed their team's expectations in the way Paul Cook has now for 3 seasons. Jack says social distancing is on its way out sooner rather than later too. I think, yeah, we'll see politically what happens with that. It all becomes a big liability thing, though, doesn't it? Q Loiner, there's no way they can police fans sitting apart, especially Leeds fans. Well, we have this with my team, Ipswich. They can't even police an away end. Everyone goes in the wrong seats and then stands up, and the stewards just basically give up. So it would literally have to be a case of we've sold this many tickets, and they'd almost have to cover up the seats, wouldn't they? You've seen in the Premier League dugouts, seats covered. So there'll be a seat available and then 2 seats with covers on. That would probably be expensive. You can do it in the dugouts, but can you do it in a whole stand? But that might be the way you open up one stand at reduced capacity with, say, a third of the seats. So you have 1 seat and then 2 covered. Look, I'm not a scientist. I don't know how they'll do it, but I think fans just need to understand that fans aren't very good at following instructions sometimes, but they're just going to have to be if they want to go in. And if they buy the ticket, you get your ticket. I've got a ticket here for Fulham versus Brentford. I assume they're going to write on the back of the ticket on your terms and conditions, if you don't follow social distancing, we'll kick you out. And they're just going to have to enforce it. Whether it makes them any money and extra cost, I don't know, but they're really going to want fans in the ground. Although you can see they might just literally wait for the government to go, no, green light, and they'll just open as normal, and everyone with masks and whatnot. And won't that be a joyous way to watch football? Hey, Anton says, I think Brentford have structure to do well in the Premier League. Best sporting management in England alongside Liverpool. And don't forget the new stadium. Oh, Graham says, Nigel Adkins would be good for the Bristol City job. I know he gets laughed at, but he's a good manager, Nigel Adkins, and he did the right thing getting out of Hull when those parachute payments run out. Jay says, don't act like you're not glad Villa are coming back. Obviously, I have a very good relationship with Villa fans, and I would not wish relegation upon anyone, Villa or Norwich or West Ham, anybody, but some big clubs in the Championship would be nice. Liam, if when Leeds get into the Prem, what kind of position would you see them finishing? I think Bielsa's tactics is more suited to the Prem. His tactics is definitely more suited to the Prem. I would plead the 5th until I see who they sign, basically, Leeds, because if he doesn't sign anybody, it's going to be hard for them. You have to remember these players finished 13th in the table below Ipswich before Bielsa showed up. And yes, Calvin Phillips might be ready, and Ben White, I'm not going to be able to keep him, likely might be ready. Who else is ready? They're going to need to supplement these good players. Helder Costa, maybe, but then why would Wolves be selling someone who was Premier League ready? I know they've wanted better stuff, but Leeds are going to need to bring in a few just to help out there. Tactically, of course, they've got the best man for the job, but yeah, I think it depends on that recruitment, if that's not too much of a cop-out answer. Let's have a look. He says there's a lot of talk of ownership change at Leeds. I don't understand the enthusiasm for it when Radrizzani has been so good so far. It's a QSI deal, isn't it? It's just the extra money, isn't it? And that would be very selfless of Radrizzani if he knows that he doesn't have the funds to really push Leeds as a Premier League entity. He gets them up. He can sell part or all of his stake at a profit and ride off into the sunset as a hero. So, yeah. Right. Sean, just joined. You heard Sheffield Wednesday rumours they are going into administration. I have not heard those rumours. and I will not comment until they are confirmed. Otherwise, have not heard those rumours. Calm says, is there any Leeds fans that are still worried they will not get promoted automatically? I think that number is decreasing rapidly. You know what Leeds fans are like, but you know what football fans are like, aren't they? You unless you go 2-0 up in injury time, you never think your team's going to win, do you? So, yeah. And Lee says, all of us. Freddie says, when is Shaylee doing a game with you? Always entertaining. Well, she'll no doubt be back when we review all of the new kits. Hopefully I'll be able to drag her to a game at some point with social distancing. But yes, I'm sure we can ply her with drink. Alex says, if schools are back, pubs are open, gyms are open, sport has to follow suit. You think, yeah? Follow suit being the operative wording there, isn't it? That follow suit might be a little bit after. But obviously as a musician, I'm very pleased about the, gigs outdoors. It's baby steps, isn't it? Baby steps. But we're going to have to live with this virus. People are going to still catch it. People are going to still die from it. And there's still going to be outbreaks. So I think it's just keeping an eye on everything, isn't it? Any more questions? Let's have a little look here. Do I think Ipswich will get promoted next season? I haven't seen any evidence of it. 360. I hope so. John says, Adkins is a good manager. Don't remind me of that pre-Wilder debacle. Obviously, Adkins can be a good manager, but he didn't do a good job at Sheffield United, did he? No, of course he didn't. He did, however, do a good job at Scunthorpe and Southampton, Reading, and Hull did a good job as well. So I think there is a manager in there, but yes, I admit his work at Sheffield United was not his best. Brighton have hinted that Leeds can buy White for 35 million. Ewan says, surely Ben White would rather be at Leeds instead of Brighton. And that's exactly the sort of player that Leeds need to sign, isn't it? One that you want a player that can understand Bielsa and follow instructions like Jack Harrison. Actually, there you go. There's a guy to be fine in the Premier League, Jack Harrison. So White would be the one. So it would almost be worth, spending most of the budget on him. But yeah, they're going to get top dollar for him, aren't they? Bailey says, does Bielsa speak any English? Against Stoke, it seemed like a translator was giving all the instructions. I watched Gary Neville talk about how hard the language barrier was in Spain. Yeah, he does speak some English, but he prefers to do it through the translator, doesn't he? Particularly with the press. But who was it? Was it Pochettino who just couldn't be bothered to speak to the press, so he used the translator, but was talking English to the fans and the press? Badger said it doesn't matter how much money the owner has under FFP. Well, that's not strictly true, is it? Because look, obviously, in very, very simple terms, yes, the losses that you can make are the same, however much money your owner's got. But I would say a few things on that, Badger. Obviously, having an owner with more money, and I'm an Ipswich fan talking here, is likely to be better than having an owner with less money. And remember, under FFP, there is good spending and bad spending. So you could get a super rich owner who could plow money into the infrastructure and into the ladies team and into all sorts of stuff that will make money for the club, but won't be counted against FFP. So there is that side to it as well. And also, if you look at the Brentford and Bristol City example, there is a bit of a gamble with FFP to be had, isn't it? You spend high, you can sell higher, keep edging it up. As long as you can keep making those sales, you can kind of push it a little bit. And often that depends on how much money's in the pocket in the first place. So you are right, Badger, but comes with a big caveat there, doesn't it? Jay says, I'm not drinking champagne yet, if that's what you were asking. Michael says, hi, Ben, recent subscriber, and your channel is great. Thank you, Michael. Welcome aboard. Anir, what do Bristol City need to get promoted? Probably Slavisa Jokanovic, and to give him 2 seasons and 40 million quid to spend. But no, they need to get the hire of the next manager right. Obviously, I'm being a bit facetious. Annie, Katie asks, what do I think of the new Ipswich kits? I'm one of these people, Katie, who they could genuinely dress as Mr. Blobby and be sponsored by, God, I don't know, the most iffy Jacob Rees-Moggs company. As long as they do it on the pitch, I don't mind. It's nice to see Ipswich have gone back to the 1980-81 badge and kit to celebrate their greatest ever team, although that does remind us how far they've fallen. Not too sure about the away kit, but apparently in polling, the female side of the fan base has really bought into the away kit, so that's always good. But yeah, I'm not one of these people who gets too het up either way on the kits. Let's have a little look again. Noel says, FFP, I hand you PSG. How the hell do they balance their books? Well, what helps in PSG's instance is that PSG are funded by, is it the Qatari state? I could get the wrong country here, so correct me if I'm wrong, who owns beIN Sport. So beIN Sport made the TV payments very much help whoever was top of the league, which was PSG, and then paid PSG lots of TV money, which if you can't see the direction that money is going, then I don't know what. But yeah, there's some clever people, but they've been charged, haven't they, PSG, numerous times. But yes, and even, look, I admire Nuno and I admire Chris Hughton, and Bournemouth and Eddie Howe. All of those teams broke FFP to get up. Aston Villa did as well. It just comes out of jurisdiction there. So there's a lot of teams that have broke it and got away with it. There's only, Birmingham so far who've broken it and got charged, haven't they? And it looks like Manchester City might be the poster boy there. Brad just says, thanks for the explanation. Yes, thank you, sir. Would you say Brentford's top two hopes are over if they don't beat Darby tomorrow? Only if both Leeds and West Brom win. They can still make the top two if everyone loses. But yes. Did I see the Champions League draw? I did not. One end has Juve, Real, Barca and Bayern. The other has Atlanta, PSG, Leipzig and Atletico. Tough draw for the one side. I'll say, yeah, I'll give that a look in August. When does League One start again? I think it's quite soon into August, isn't it? So, given Jed Wallace's form since the restart, do you think there will be bids from in the close season? Yeah, look, there's going to be bids for Jed Wallace. Whether I don't think they're going to be what Millwall want, really. And I'd have to know the finances to know whether they're in a position where they need to sell. But you would imagine Wallace would need to put another good championship season in to get a Premier League move. And it looks like that old kind of what I call Derby County Mel Morris type signing, where you get a top-end championship team. Like Derby would always bring in Ince or Vidra or Waghorn, Nugent, whoever for 7-8 million or what have you. I don't see that happening anymore. I just don't think championship teams are going to have the money. So I suppose if you're Millwall and you need to sell, you're hoping that a Burnley or a Palace would offer you, I don't know what Millwall would want for Wallace, 8 to 12 million. I guess it's just difficult to know until that first big signing goes through. It's difficult to know what the transfer market's going to look like. Michael, what 3 teams did you predict to be promoted at the start of the season? Do you know, I can't remember. And I will revisit my predictions. I think probably Leeds, probably Cardiff, because they had Warnock at the start of the season. And I wouldn't have predicted a third. I would have just predicted the top 2 and then playoff teams. But don't worry, Michael. We will review the pre-season predictions, and I will obviously look a complete pillock. Although there was one point in the season where I had Charlton right at the bottom and Cardiff right at the top, and it was completely skew with. So hopefully that will be good. Josh, whenever Josh is in the chat, I think of Josh Brownhill, the Bristol City midfielder who went to Burnley. He asked, "What did I have for tea tonight? Or what's for tea?" I've already eaten, and it's going to sound terribly middle class, isn't it? Me and my missus have Gusto, which is a meal service where they give you the whole meal, and we had prawn chorizo and avocado tacos with like a mayonnaise thing in. It was healthy, but I'm still hungry. But it was lovely if Shaylee's watching, which he sometimes does, to see when I'm going to reappear downstairs. Q Liner says QSI own PSG. Yes, indeed they do. And that is who Leeds are, well, definitely in cahoots with there, aren't they? Chosen One adds QSI in talks to buy Leeds, the whole club. Goodness me. I thought it was a stake, but there we go. White Hart, Dane, if Ipswich get promoted, they'll have to change manager first. Same goes for Pompey. Terrible style of football. I don't want to get into a Paul Lambert thing, but all I'll say is, White Hart, Dane, you may be right. Andrew says, how do you break FFP and get away with it? I can tell you that in 2 words: get promoted. That's the way you break FFP and get away with it, because you're outside of the jurisdiction of the EFL and you do not get the sanctions. And that is what Brighton and Wolves, just look at the losses they made, particularly in the last season to go up as well. Brighton were pretty good and gambled in the last season. And look, okay, I understand that teams pay big promotion bonuses when they go up, and that maybe they might not have broke it if they didn't go up. But they did go up. And they did break it. But then, again, I guess you can argue that if you're out of jurisdiction, then breaking it is irrelevant, really. I always use speeding analogies, don't I? You know, you can speed all you like. If you don't get caught, you don't get caught. And if you're out of the jurisdiction of the police, i.e. they're not watching you, you won't get charged. Not that I'm advocating anybody to speed. But, yeah, Andrew, that's the way people have done it. Should Villa be charged with violations if they get relegated back to the Championship? I think... I don't know how you do this, because it's a different body, EFL to Premier League. So you can't have a EFL sanction that's binding in the Premier League. But I don't think these teams should be exempt from the FFP deduction. But it would still be worth breaking FFP, taking the points deduction, and then taking the parachute payments. You'd still be ahead, even if it was a 20-point deduction for breaching FFP. There's what they should do. No parachute payments for any team that broke FFP when they went up. There you go. Anyone want to write to Rick Parry and tell him that one? I don't know how they would do it. The one way is obviously the Premier League and Premier League 2 thing, because then you'd have the same body, and you'd hope that things would be different then. But what does that then look like for the next run down? You're just passing the issue downwards, aren't you? This is Adam, says, thoughts on Forest chances should they reach the playoffs? Good, Adam. They should be fine without the ball. You would back them to not concede more than 1 or 2 goals across the 180 minutes. They've got players like Lolly and Graben, who I always cite, who can get the goals, and players like Thiago Silva and Amiobi, who can do damage. Experienced heads like Watson in there, and Samba Sow, very effective as well. I know I'm just listing their players now, but Forest should be good. Just depends if they come up against a Brentford or a Fulham and you get the clash of styles, whether they can weather the long periods without the ball. But no, they should be a good tournament team, and be under no illusions. The playoffs are a tournament, which seems to want to get relegated from the Championship. In terms of who would you rather Ipswich face next season? Oh, I don't care. Josh, Ipswich are not a good team. But obviously, well, it's a catch-22 for me because I cover the Championship. Obviously, I'm quite closely connected to Luton because of where I live. So it'd be nice if they win the Championship, but then I can get to see Ipswich down there as well. I think Barnsley will do well in the Championship, especially if they keep Gerhardt Struber. Hull is a long way, is all I would say. Charlton are there, aren't they? Borough is also a long way. Wigan is a long way. And honestly, given the ownership thing. I don't think Wigan deserve to go down, but there we go. Do I think League 1 and 2 will start the season if there are no supporters allowed? They're going to have to, aren't they? And that might mean some more teams going into administration, which would suck. But surely the EFL cannot sanction a season starting without trying to help stopping half their teams go into administration. So whether that means that they can forward more solidarity payments, or I don't know what they can do. Leave the transfer window open as long as possible so they can still trade and make profits from sales. But it would just seem silly to start it if half the teams are going to be in trouble. Liam says, that's my other question. Do you think Leeds will invest? We seem to want to invest considering the Category 1 training plans. Yeah, Leeds have to invest because also because of the age of Bielsa. He's earned the Premier League. He's earned that TV money. Leeds should be able to draw. They already do draw excellent commercial revenues. So yeah, but why would you have a guy Bielsa's age and not give him some money to have a pop in the Premier League? I think Bielsa has served his time, a manager of that calibre, in the Championship. Noel says Villa will be in meltdown if they go down. The good thing for Villa, I guess, is they have a rather brilliant midfielder named Grealish that they can sell to cushion some losses. But yeah, could be straight back into trouble for Villa, couldn't it? Let's have a little look. When do the National League playoffs start? I've got no idea. Is that soon? No idea. Bailey says, I rewatched your prediction video for this year. You had the whole top 6 correct. Oh, please don't say that. I didn't even know that. Thank you for going back and watching, Bailey. Stop making me hungry, says Katie. If you do subscribe to Gusto, Katie, DM me, because I can do one of those things where I get you a code and then I get a discount and you get a discount as well. And if anyone's working at Gusto and they want to sponsor me, please go ahead. Noel says, so basically you cheat your way out of the league as long as you have the backing to do so. In short, yes. And that is what it is, I'm afraid. And it's all due to it being a different body above. Wolves lost £52 million, lost £1 million a week to get promoted, and to have Willy Bolly, Diogo Jota and Ruben Neves taking the mickey in the Championship. So basically, yes. And you need to write Sean Harvey, the old EFL guy, a strongly worded letter that this has been allowed to get so far. I don't think it's fair that Villa get another 3 years. If they hadn't have gone up, they would have been shafted. Remember, if they're only up for one season, Q Loiner, it's only 2 years of parachute payments, which does put people like Villa and Norwich on a knife edge, because you've basically got one season then before you have to start planning for, can we be in the Championship without parachute payments? It's a hard one if you're only up for one season. 3 years parachute payments is a lot better than 2, put it that way. Smithy Bacon says, if Charlton stay up, Bowyer, manager of the year, endless owners, players not playing, lowest budget. Yeah, he'd be in with a shout. You would have to look at the context, Smithy, as well, and just see who got promoted, because if there's, I don't know, if there's a manager who's only been in there one season who takes a team up, then they might have a case against Bowyer, but certainly a very, very good job. Badger says, but look at Stoke, still getting parachute payments and might go down. And Sunderland did exactly the same thing. I will reiterate my point many times I've made about parachute payments. Parachute payments are an advantage. That is an irrefutable fact. Having 40 and then 35 million, having 75 million more than other Championship teams, okay, yes, they still get their 3 or 4 million or whatever, is irrefutably an advantage. But yes, Badger is right. If your club is run terribly, then you will lose that advantage. The analogy I always give is you and I, viewer, you can challenge me to a running race, and I can tell you, okay, this running race is 400 metres, and I'm going to give you 200 metres head start. If you then, when the gun goes for us to go, decide to just sit there whilst I run the first 200 metres and run past you, you still had an advantage, but you just did not use it. So, yes, Stoke could still go down with parachutes, but We can all point to a fragile dressing room mentality at Stoke. We can point to hiring Rowett first, him signing a load of players, then hiring Jones, him signing a load of players, then Michael O'Neill, not so much of the hiring. But you can clearly point to why Stoke have blown their parachute payments. 3 separate managers, 3 squads of players, plus a bit of an icky feeling and fragility in the dressing room now over a lot of years. So it's very interesting, very, very interesting. But as always, I am open to all opinions. End of the day, Villa fluked their way up, carried by Grealish, and it shows. I wouldn't say fluked, Q Loiner. I would say they borrowed their way up, and they did rely on Grealish, obviously. But look, I was at their playoff semi-final, and there was Mings borrowed, Tuanzebe borrowed, and Abraham borrowed to go with 2 very good players in Grealish and McGinn. They had enough players to go up. Noel says, Rick Parry won't read anything because you can't read with your head in the shop. Look, I don't want to upset anyone, especially not Katie, the Wigan fan, but just give Rick Parry a little bit of time, because remember, he's inheriting absolute rubbish and a very difficult job. He's made some of the right noises. Look, the fit and proper persons test, if they've got through it and then they've shafted Wigan, then yes, that's something we can hold Rick Parry accountable for. But remember, bad people do bad things. For example, I have a DBS check saying that I am not a criminal. So that means I can get a job working with young or vulnerable people. If I then get that job and then act like a criminal, that doesn't mean that the check wasn't valid. I passed the check, but then I was a bad person and I did a bad thing. And I don't think that's the person who gives the check's fault. If you do you take my point that bad people do bad things, and sometimes you can put all the checks in place and people can pass your checks and then turn on you. So that might be what's happened. Give Rick Parry a year, see what he does in terms of increasing the solidarity payments, equaling out the parachute payments, and hopefully not letting the Premier League run roughshod over the Championship. And yes, I do understand the irony that Rick Parry was the chief executive of the Premier League in 92-93 and is, well, I was going to say more than anybody. Richard Scudamore was the executive that managed to get it to go through the roof in the Premier League, but there would be no Premier League without Rick Parry. Cool. We'll keep going if the questions keep coming. Andrew says, this makes me think that if Fulham don't go up, they're going to have to sell Mitro Kearney to balance the books then. Maybe. Yeah, and that's the position that Fulham are in, aren't they? 1 season up, 2 years parachute payments. For your 3-year plan, 5-year plan, whatever football clubs operate off, you can't run a plan that has parachute payments in for 3 years if there's only one more payment. So yes, you have to start looking at the start of that second year. And I thought Fulham had done good deals with Cavaliero and Knockaert. I think we'll see more deals like that. I know they've signed them now, so they are, and they have invested. But I think you'll see more deals like that with teams. 1-year parachute payment where it's a loan with a loan fee and then an obligation to buy upon promotion. And then, like Mings, Tuanzebe, Abraham at Villa, if you go up, you can get them. The only thing Villa did wrong is they didn't get first refusal on Abraham, because then you get the situation where, the striker scores 25 goals and his parent club say, okay, we'll get him. Bailey says, I've watched the All or Nothing series on Amazon Prime. The one behind the scenes Man City is amazing. Seeing Guardiola, an intense bloke. I have watched both of those. It's always difficult to tell when you see that the exec producers work for the clubs, but I thought it was a good insight. But they are able to spin what narratives they want. Unlike Sunderland, who didn't seem to have any executive production control over the Netflix one, and were happy for their owners to look pretty silly. So. Most overperforming team of the season and most underperforming team, says Michael. Let's have a little look at the table. Forest, maybe I didn't have Forest to be that high, I don't think. Brentford third, but, we've been waiting for them to perform in line with their XG for a couple of seasons, haven't we? Preston were when they were in sixth, but they've dropped out of it now. Blackburn are just above where they should be, shouldn't they? So that is impressive. Not too many, really. There's not a Norwich this season where, like, incredibly, they just fly up the table. We had Norwich and Sheffield United in the same season, who both really performed well to get promoted, didn't they? Underperforming, I mean, it goes without saying that Stoke and Huddersfield, with their parachute money, should in no way, shape or form be 19th and 21st with 4 games to go. Have another look here, see if there's any more questions coming in. Keep them coming, guys. We'll keep going. I'm enjoying myself very muchly. Q Liner says, I think Cardiff would win the playoffs. They're set up very well to beat footballing teams like Fulham and Brentford. And yes, Cardiff likely would be up against Brentford or Fulham, wouldn't they? So, yeah, be very interesting, especially in that away leg as well. Some people think it's, have that home advantage second, but you can lose the playoff in the away leg, can't you? Go under completely there. Jane says, would I take John Terrell in Ipswich? Yes, absolutely. Ipswich are not a good team, but Ipswich are a team that have a very big squad. And probably could do with not signing anyone. Joseman, Grealish is the most overrated player in the Prem. Joseman, you're going to have to, I don't deal with the term overrated. Overrated means you disagree with someone's opinion of him. You're more than welcome to disagree with my opinion of him, but then you have to state what, in my opinion, I've said that you disagree with. Overrated to me is a term that doesn't really mean anything. You need to tell me who said what to rate him. Yes, if somebody said Grealish is worth 150 million and is England's greatest ever player, then they would be overrating Grealish. But my opinion of Grealish is that he is a superb football player. He's probably worth, you're saying 50, I would say he's probably worth more like 70 million. I think he'll play for England in the future, and I think he's worthy of playing in the top 6 in the Premier League. So that would be my point of view. And if you want to debate that, then please go ahead. Great. But overrated, I don't really ever go with that terminology, really, because I'm more interested in, well, what's your opinion? What's my opinion? Overrated is, well, who said what? Does everyone say that? No, they don't. I'm sure there's some people that rate him exactly right. Noel says, everyone seems to think that Grealish is the golden egg sale, but has anyone noticed over the last 3-4 games he has looked less than ordinary? Yeah, true, and I'm willing to debate Grealish, but let's make our states clear. You say how much you think he's worth and what level you think he's at, and then we can go. Overrated, as I say, doesn't really work for me. Bad Cook didn't win Manager of the Month. We didn't want the curse. Who got it? Was it Thomas Frank? I think he was. Can I see Brentford winning every game from now until the end of the season? Possibly. I think the next one's the hardest one, isn't it? Darby away. But yes, they could do it. What Dane says, Norwich don't look like a side who've overspent. On the contrary, they've probably invested too little since they went up. Yeah, Norwich paying for the crimes of those who came before them, weren't they? So, yeah, I think they were overly cautious, and they need to get it right as and when they are relegated, and they need to keep, I've said to my Norwich friends, 5 people, they need to keep 3 of them. Farker, Webber, Aarons, Pookie, Buendia. They keep 3 of those, they'll be all right. Sean says, well, Leeds, no parachute payments and still playing the best football in nearly 20 years. It can be done. And we have to applaud Sheffield United, who did the exact same thing, and Watford did the same thing. Brighton did it with no parachute payments, but as we've said, Tony Bloom there wasn't a pauper, and they did completely rinse FFP to do it as well. Norwich, strictly speaking, didn't have any parachute payments the season when they went up, but they had them every other year they'd been in the Championship for the last 5 years or what have you. So they're kind of a half case of doing it. How do I think Cov will do next season? From what I've seen, they play good football. They're also a team, should be in at least champion. Yeah, big club, Coventry, Premier League for lots and lots of years. I think they'll do well on the basis that they'll be in year 3 of Mark Robbins, won't they? One of their best players was on loan from Villa, though, so they just need to fix that stuff. Norwich have pretty much spent nothing, so they'll have money to burn next season. Well, they've burned it before. Let's hope that for their sake, they don't do it again. Stephen says, I want Leeds to become champions before the Derby game. I want a Cardiff on at Pride Park. I mean, yes, Leeds fans are still keeping this thing with Darby going. Just remember that in that guard of honour, there will be no Lampard, no Keogh, no Bryson, no Wilson, no, who are the other loanies? Mason Mount. They had 3 good loanies, didn't they, Darby? I can't remember who the other 2 were. Mount, Wilson, Tamori. So a lot of the players that were there for the 4-2 last season will not be there, indeed. You don't get a guard of honour for being right. Let's see what people do. You might do. Who, in the name of everything that is holy, disliked this wonderful video? I don't know. So, yeah, someone told me once, if you don't get disliked, you're not doing it right. So there we go. Who cares? Someone once told me that YouTube automatically puts a dislike on every video. I've got plenty that don't have dislikes, but yeah, sometimes people just see a bloke with long hair talking about football and press dislike. Good luck to them. Do you know what? I've never disliked a YouTube video. I just can't understand doing that. I just wouldn't watch it. But each to their own, hey. I don't really know why YouTube have the dislike function, but there you go. Unpopular opinion, Paul Cook deserves manager of the season if he keeps Wigan up, especially given the player wage problems, heroic effort. Yes, indeed. Let's have a little looky and see if we can get any more questions coming in here. Grealish is a good player, but he's expected to carry the Villa side, and he can't. Maybe not so much in the Premier League. Do you think Joe Hart will join a Championship team next season? Well, look, if it's good enough for Wayne Rooney, it's good enough for Joe Hart. So if we're looking for balanced opinions, Logan, Grealish is crap. It's just patently not true, is it? It's brilliant. You may not like him. You may not like his hair or the way he carries himself or his Brummie accent or his tight shorts or the way he runs his sock down. But I just cannot agree with that. Anyone who has ever seen him play football. Yes. Mike says, Grealish is a very good player. Spoils his performance by going ground too easy. I'm going to stand up for Grealish here because part of his game is riding tackles and drawing fouls. And genuinely, I've not seen many players better at it than him. And a lot of the times when he goes down, he's perfectly within his rights to go down. And it's because I've not seen anyone so good at stopping, drawing the player in for the foul, shifting the ball. And it's just that the player's too slow. So, look, I understand Grealish splits opinion, but please be balanced. Yes, some of those occasions, Grealish obviously goes down. So Frank got manager of the month. Yes, he did. Grealish is terrible. I mean, again, we're looking for balanced opinions. I respect Leeds 2020 and Logan, but that's okay. If you're telling me Grealish is terrible and Grealish is crap, tell me another player who is crap and who's terrible, and tell me a player who's better than Grealish. There you go. That's my challenge to you. Give that some context. Grealish might as well turn up with a beach towel, spends more time on the deck than he does playing football. Is Ivan Toney good enough to jump the Championship and go to a Prem team? No, I don't think so. Someone might give him a chance, given what Peterborough want people to pay, but I think he needs to score some goals in the Championship. The media hype up Grealish like he's some world-class wonder kid. He's clearly not. Mason Mount is better than him. Again, give me an example. Show me some media saying Jack Grealish is a world-class wonder kid and that he's better than Mason Mount. I actually think fans hype up. Look at this feed. It's the fans as well, isn't it? You've got to say he's the most watched player wherever he goes, and you've got to give me examples here. I'm more than willing to debate, but I need examples. I can't debate. We can debate ideologies, obviously, but they need to be backed up with some kind of, more than the media hype him up. Show me where. Show me where, and I'll either agree or disagree with it. Grealish isn't crap. He's a very good player, but he's trying to do everything at Villa, including diving. At a better club, I think he'd look much better. There we go. Bit more balanced. The Neymar fee has destroyed the transfer market in regards to the valuations. He only went for that fee as it was a buyout clause, and if not, no team could have afforded him. Yes, that has really put the cat amongst the pigeons. 0-0 in the Luton game. I couldn't give a damn about guards of honour. There we go. A conversation between Paul Cook and Sean Dyche would be the most irritating thing ever. Noel says, sorry, you're wrong. Grealish dives. You need to listen really very, very closely to what I'm saying. Listen very, very closely. I didn't say Jack Grealish never dives. I said, for the most part, he's one of the best players I've ever seen at drawing fouls. And I also said he sometimes dives. Okay, so I'm more than willing to have a debate, but please listen closely to what I'm saying. We can agree, we can disagree, but I did not say Jack Grealish does not dive. He does sometimes. I've seen it, you've seen it, but he's also one of the best players I've seen at stopping with the ball, manipulating the opponent and drawing a foul, where he's just been too good for them. And if, as I say, anyone has a problem with Jack Grealish for anything other than football reasons, then that's your issue, not his. But watch him objectively and you'll see a really, really good football player. I will say most of the stuff here is coming from Leeds and a Birmingham fan there. So Logan said he started. It's not a war, honestly. It's a good debate. I think it's really important, considering that people seem incapable of debating and someone disagrees with them and they go off crying. I'm happy for people to disagree with me. That's absolutely fine. As long as it's civil and as long as you provide an example, great. And I tell you what, if you disagree with me and you're civil and you provide an example that proves I'm wrong, what do? I say, oh, you're right. And I change my opinion. And I would have thought that was how debate should work. But sadly, particularly on Twitter, and I'm not accusing subscribers here who seem a lot more balanced, it doesn't seem to work like that in the outside world. No, but there we go. Even BBC Sports the other day said he spends more time on the floor than he does standing up. Again, I will happily sit and watch a still of all the times Jack Grealish gets fouled in a game. Has to be every time. You can't just select the ones where he goes down easily. And we'll keep score on how many he dived and how many he's fouled. Yeah? Although that should probably be done by a qualified referee, not anyone biased. But if you can show me footage of him across a game where he dived more times than he's fouled, I will hold my hands up and say, in that game, he dived more times than he's fouled. But I saw Villa a lot. And okay, these were championship players and they probably just couldn't get near him. But I found he was fouled a lot. I genuinely did. Let's have a look here. Are there any markets that could be exploited more? Huddersfield did it with Germany and Wolves with Portugal. Scotland is definitely a good market there. It's never going to go away, this, is it? Alex says, Grealish is quality. Unfortunately, part of the modern game is to buy a free kick and relieve pressure on your team. Marlon Romeo is a master of it. Every single team that you guys support has a player who will, during a game, completely S-house a free kick. Every team. And when a player from your team does it, you go, oh, well done, drawn a foul there, bought that. And when a player from the other team does it, you might well find yourself going, that's a dive or whatever. So, okay, we've got some context. David Silva is better than Grealish. Yes, I think we can all get behind that one. So that just shows we're setting quite a high bar for Grealish here, aren't we? Norwich fans should be protesting about where is all the cash going. Delia's wine cellar, I reckon. Let's be having you. Stephen says, I agree, Jack Grealish is a talent. Just keep your eye on him. Watch where he goes after the end of this season and watch where his career goes. Look, I couldn't stand James Maddison when he played for Norwich, but I could acknowledge, he was cocky and, he punished my team, Ipswich, and he would swagger around and he would go down easily. But you just got to acknowledge sometimes when a good player is a good player. If they're irritating, that's an entirely different thing. Do I think Bielsa will stay if Leeds in the Premier League next year? Or will he pack up his bucket and head back to young boys? Of course he's going to stay, isn't he, and have a go. Ben, what team would suit Grealish if he moves this summer? Now, that, I don't know. I don't watch that much Premier League, so I can't profess to be that much of an expert. Let me just bring up a Premier League table and I'll try and say something remotely sensible. The thing with Grealish is, like somebody said, he's been the main guy for so long at Villa, trying to do everything on his own. And how would he then fit into a team shape and a framework? So it might be difficult for him to do that. So of course he needs a strong manager, strong teammates, but high as possible, I guess. Laura Royal, what's the obsession with Grealish from Leeds fans? Is he linked? I don't think so. I think everyone. I dare say, I think there's an obsession generally with football fans and players that appear cocky or arrogant, etc. And I hate to say it, I do sometimes think some of it comes across as a little bit jealous, and it's a beta male being angry at very much an alpha male. And I'm not describing myself as an alpha male in any way, shape or form. But you know what it's like sometimes? These players, it's always the good players that get the most stick, isn't it? It really, really is. So, Sean, Grealish is a fine footballer and is targeted in every game, just protecting himself from inferior players out to do a job on him. The problem with Grealish, says Anton, in Villa, everything revolves around him. I doubt he is tactically disciplined for a big team like Liverpool, City or even Man U. There you go. That might be the case. Because remember what Grealish does when he gets the ball? He stops, doesn't he? And then the game has to work at his speed. So he might be better at a bottom half Premier League team where he can be the guy. Is he good enough to carry them? Who knows? I think he should be. But he needs good players around him. But that might be a good point from Anton. We've got no evidence that Grealish can cut it at a top 6 Premier League team. I'd like to see him get the chance. I hope he can. Do I think clubs may increase ticket prices when football fans go back? I really hope they don't. That is not going to play well. Jin says, you're doing a great job, buddy. Grealish is a local lad around where we live. Met his dad in my local pub a few times. Nice. Grealish has wheelies fitted to his boots. That's why last night Man United pen was poetic justice. Have you seen this today? The Premier League, Noel, have said that they got 3 decisions wrong on VAR. Man, not good, not good. Hello, Wine-Eye. How's my day? I'm good, Elliot. I've still got some of that bottle left as well, so we'll give it a look here. Grealish is, there we go, some context. Here we go, J-Dog. Grealish isn't Manchester United standard, definitely not starting 11 standard. More a Europa to mid-Premier League player. There you go. What we need in a debate is we need context, because now you can agree with J-Dog or not and say whether you think J-Dog said he was overrated in being a Europa League player rather than, maybe he's right, who knows. But just to come out and say, oh, overrated, rubbish, that's not good enough. Certainly not in this line of subscribers. That will get called out as an opinion, won't it, that doesn't have enough meat behind it. Let's keep going. Why the hell not? Still plenty of people in the chat. Luke Ayling is fantastic. There you go. Colin says, Luke Ayling is fantastic at winning fouls in that way. Watch him. He does it every game. And the LUTV host congratulate him on it. So, yeah, there you go. Every team has a player that does it. Crazy Game says, Phil Foden is miles better. Well, he might be better. He's certainly playing at a bigger club. He certainly proved he can function under an intense manager with very high standards. He might have a higher ceiling. You might be right. It might turn out to be miles better is a bit difficult to quantify, but certainly there is evidence for an argument that Phil Foden is already at a young age functioning at a higher level than Grealish has ever done. We'll see what happens in the future. So again, context, and we can have a debate about it. I watched El Loco yesterday. It was really good. I haven't seen it yet. Noel says, I would love to play against Grealish because he would be famous, because he would be the first man on Mars. He would be the butcher of Bilbao. Who was that who broke Maradona's leg, wasn't it? Michael says, it reminds me of Zaha a few years back when he goes down a lot rather than look for a pass or shot. Interesting. How much did Zaha? No, he's still at Palace, isn't he? Brummy Joe had a great rant today. What about, Mike? What about? Luke Ayling is a master at drawing fouls. He's brill. He is also a Duracell bunny. Can't pass the ball across the pitch. There we go. Big Badger says Pablo is better than Grealish. Now, here's an interesting one, because if you go back in my channel, at the end of the 18-19 season, I did my top 5 players that I most enjoyed watching in the Championship. And I believe they were Buendia, Grealish and Pablo. So, yes, in the Championship, Pablo has as much influence on games as Grealish does. Yes, I will agree with that. You just have to remember that Grealish, A, is English, B, is over 10 years younger, and C, is playing for his hometown club. And, Pablo doesn't have that arrogant swagger. So maybe just a bit more attention gets drawn to Grealish. But, yeah, certainly in the Championship, they were comparable players. Yeah, absolutely. I was just annoyed that in that game that Leeds won at Villa, that Grealish and Hernandez didn't both play because Grealish was injured that day, indeed. Baggies Forever says Pereira is better than both. We will see. Pereira has had a brilliant season. Remember, Pablo's played at the top level, Champions League quarterfinals for Valencia. Grealish has played a season in the Premier League, so we need to see evidence that Pereira can cut it at the top level, because we know all of those players boss it in the Championship. There you go. Grealish to Newcastle. All that Saudi money, they love a talisman at Newcastle, Gascoigne and Shearer, don't they? So, yeah. Slight change of direction, Ben. Do you think VAR should be introduced in the Championship? I think it's killed the vibe in the Premier League. Hopefully not, Jin. Hopefully they will sort out all of their misgivings in the Premier League, and then we'll get it when it's perfect in the Championship. Sorry I'm late, says Stephen. Which joker chose Huddersfield Luton to be on Sky? I don't know. Chris Burns says Said Benrahma is better than Jack Grealish. Possibly. Could turn out that way. Yeah, could turn out that way. Again, I'll look at the evidence. Grealish has bossed it in the Championship. Benrahma has bossed it in the Championship. Benrahma's a little bit younger. Let's compare and see how both do in the Premier League. And then, reasonable debate, isn't it? Spurs would be a good fit for Grealish, says Mike. Messi or Ronaldo? I'd say Messi, and it's not even close. Never has been. Love both of them. There we go. Andrew says, I actually couldn't stand Knockout before he joined Fulham, and now I completely see why every opposition fan hates him. Yes, and we had Joe Garner at Ipswich. That if he plays for you, you love him. Horrible little fouls and throwing himself down. And, yeah, when he's playing against you, not so much. Not so much indeed. Let's have a look here. I can see Grealish fitting in with the lads. The banter lads at Leicester. Vardy, Maddison. Yeah. Can they afford him, though? We will see. Logan says he would see Brentford stay up in the Premier League with all the quality they have up front and at the back. We shall see. Pattern of play certainly there, isn't it? I reckon Benrahma is worth that 30 million figure that was flying around. Yes. Yeah, I think they'll get. We have to use the James Maddison metric normally, don't we? About 25 million for a top Championship player sold out of the Championship into the Premier League. Remember, that figure is higher when you sell to a Champions League team, and give or take a couple of years inflation. Maybe indeed. Look, who, in my opinion, will be Championship champions? God knows. I don't think anyone cares, do they? I think as long as teams get up, I think Norwich were only bothered on the last day of last season when Villa rested Grealish and what's his face, John McGinn, for fear of them getting suspended. Elliot says stream for the Fulham game tonight. I think I might struggle with it, Elliot. My voice is already going now, and I'm trying to keep up with you guys. But we're an hour and 48 into this one, and I think we'll go and hang with the missus. But likely we'll be doing something tomorrow night. Huddersfield Luton 0-0. Who'd have thought it? Well, indeed. There we go. League One preview show before the game. Maybe we'll do a review rather than a preview. Michael says a side like Everton would be good for Grealish. Foden is quality. Of course he is. Remember, one player being good doesn't make another player bad. They can both be good. Eze is also great at drawing fouls. Whenever a player is above a Leeds quality like Neymar at Santos. They get kicked and draw plenty of fouls. Yeah, and those players who are kind of above the league there and need to be protected as well, else teams will just kick the holy hell out of them, won't they? Indeed. I think we've already done that one. Michael says also he in terms of Zaha going to a top club, failing, and also going back to mid-table. Yeah, he's always better at Palace, isn't he? Hey, that might turn out to be Grealish's ceiling, and then when we've got the evidence, I'll tell you that I think that's his ceiling, but we need to find out first. That's a good question. Will Dean Garner go back to West Ham or get signed by? Someone was asking me about West Brom earlier this season, and I don't want to put the mockers on their chances, but how many players have they got who are ready for Premier League? I'd like to see Sawyers get a go at it. Yeah, Phillips has been up there. Livermore's been up there. Middling Premier League players, aren't they? Pereira, yes, 100% ready. But if they could get Dean Garner, that's one. But why would you not? Well, first of all, why would you not want him back if you're West Ham? But also, why would you sign Jared Bowen in a similar position if you did want him? Brummy Joe's rant was about an interfering Chinese guy who represents their owners, who knows nothing about football but walks around in a tracksuit. St Andrews, welcome to the ownership of football clubs. Marco says, would love Jack at Leeds. Of course you would. There you go. There you go. He'd be amazing, wouldn't he? Yeah, it just depends whether Grayer said he would not fit in, slows the game down. We just don't know whether that's what he's been told to do at Villa. If he can't follow instructions and he just plays to the march of his own drum, then no, Bielsa will never sign him. Neither would Guardiola, neither would Klopp. I don't think even Solskjaer would. Lampard might and try and work a team around him, but unless I know that that's not what he's been told to do already, then there's no evidence that he couldn't follow instructions. We need to see him go to a team where that's required of him to know that he can't do it, if you know what I mean. It's a hunch otherwise, isn't it? A hunch. Speaking of arrogant swagger with hair, can we get a shout out for Todd Cantwell at Norwich? He surprised the hell out of me, Cantwell. I had him as the worst of the Norwich youngsters with Aarons and Godfrey, Lewis and Cantwell, but he's been the best of them this season. So, yeah. Will I watch Leeds next season in the Premier League? Yes. The plan is that we're going to start doing a Championship alumni show. So we'll feature Sheffield United and Leeds. I don't know how and when it will work. And whoever goes up this year, maybe West Brom, maybe Fulham, maybe Brentford, maybe Forest, maybe Cardiff, maybe Bristol City on a late tear. There we go. Havertz and Sancho are much better than all players being discussed and may go for less than 100 million. And again, you just got to look at evidence, haven't you? Evidence. Havertz is bossing it in a top league in Europe. So is Sancho. Grealish has not done that. Benrahma has not done that. So it's right that you would rate them higher. And then until such time as someone bosses a top league. I mean, you take the Maddison example where he's gone from one of the best players in the Championship to doing a really good job in the Premier League. Can he now get another move and then go into that top six echelon? That's where we're not sure on Grealish. Is he? He's definitely too good for the Championship. We've seen that. We've got to all admit that. Is he a bottom half of the Premier League player, middle eight of the Premier League player, or a top eight? I don't know. We've seen not much evidence that he can boss a game at Villa in a relegation team, but we'll see. We will see. Proof is in the pudding. Grealish could benefit from Layton's lessons about staying on your feet from Grealish. There we go. Your Boa's right glute. Are they guppies or platties in my tank? I don't know. Shaley's in charge of all that stuff, so I will find out later. Newcastle sale is being held up as Mike Ashley is reluctant to get the Saudi embassy to sign up, and I think the Premier League are interested in that as well. Laura Royal says every club has their token diver or flair player going to ground too easily. More gamesmanship, less honesty and toughness nowadays, especially with more scrutinised decisions and VAR. What you've got to remember in football nowadays is that in the past, a foul was when you literally knocked the player over and stopped them being able to continue. That's not the definition of a foul now. A foul is where you put yourself in a position that might stop the player. And I'm not quoting the laws, but you know what I mean, don't you? You can have, it's like the way people take offence, isn't it? It's like, well, on paper, I can be offended by that, so I'm going to be offended. But it's like, are you really offended? What form did your offence take? And it's like with these fouls, it's like, what form did this foul take? The guy's not hurt and he's kept going, but the foul's been given. And drawing fouls is an art now. And someone like Grealish can move his feet and the ball quicker than most of the people he plays against, and ergo draws a ton of fouls. Does he get kicked with proportional force enough to fall to the ground? No, often not. But that doesn't make it not a foul. Remember, it can be a dive and it can be a foul at the same time. Those two things can both be true. The offence can be a foul, and the dive can be to either slow the game down if you're playing for the weaker team, to draw the referee's attention to the fact that you're being fouled, to possibly try and draw a yellow card for the person. So I think we need to get over the fact that someone like Grealish can go down a lot, but it can be a dive and it can be a foul. I use the term dive advisedly. I'm not talking about simulation where there is no foul and you try and invent one. That's a different matter. Yes, I agree with that. But you can, let's say, exaggerate the force that you're tackled with in order to instill in the ref's mind it's a foul, but it's still a foul. So it's a difficult one to get your head around, isn't it? Let's have a look. In their prime, either Kearney, Pablo, Grealish or Pereira. Oh, my God. That's too difficult, isn't it? Are we talking championship? Do I get Pablo Valencia style in the championship? In which case it would probably be him. He's played at the highest level. And Kearney was amazing in 17-18, wasn't he? As well. Pereira looks great too. What are my thoughts on Sessegnon? God, forgotten about him. Yeah, he was amazing, wasn't he? Barely played since leaving Fulham. Will he reach the heights we all thought in Fulham's promotion season? I hope. But there you go. There's when we're talking about Grealish, there's a classic case in point. Everyone saw Ryan Sessegnon and thought, wow, he's incredible. He's 16, 17, way too good for the championship. We all expect him to be in the England squad by now, and he hasn't got there yet. So we just have to wait and see the evidence. Maybe he needs a loan somewhere. Would he go back down to the championship? Or maybe he'll be in the Spurs team when he's ready. But it doesn't always work out how we think. Someone can look for all the world, like they're going to boss it at a higher level, and then they don't do it. How many players do you think Leeds will need to stay up in the Prem? Depends who they are, obviously. Ben White that'd be a big deal, wouldn't it? I think they'll go with Meslier. I think they'll go with Ayling. Can they do the Premier League with Stuart Dallas at left back? Possibly. I think Cooper gets a chance, but only if White stays with him. Phillips will be fine. Hernandez will be fine. Klitsch they'll keep. Central midfielder for a lot of money. Costa will be fine. Harrison will be fine. And then old Paddy, I think they need a striker as well, don't they? As much as I'm a fan of Bamford, I think they'll need more than one up there. Alex says, players I love to hate but would love in my team. Here we go. Marlon King, Lee Hughes, Billy Sharp, Lee Tomlin, Mitrovic. There you go. Plenty of them. Kieran Gibbs is a ready-for-PL player in West Brom. Arsenal legend. Ha-ha, indeed. Bielsa prefers to bring in a promising player into the squad and nurture them. Grealish thinks he is better than anyone else already. Again, I would need to hear Grealish say that. Unless, Anthony, you're saying, I think Grealish thinks he's... but we don't know that as a fact unless we can do mind reading. But don't think we'll be in a Leeds team where we have Bielsa. No, I don't think he will either. But wouldn't it be amazing, hey? Logan says, this stream has been going for 2 hours. I've just kept talking, haven't I? Noel says, Grealish has been linked with Real Madrid. They need a boot cleaner. Ewan says, considering Maddison was 25 million, Grealish is probably worth around 20. Well, I don't agree with that, Ewan. I think adjusting for inflation a couple of years, and if they sell while they're still in the Premier League, remember Grealish would be sold after playing in the Premier League. Maddison never had, and Grealish would have played more games. But I take your point. At the moment, James Maddison has done more in his career at a Premier League level than Jack Grealish. But remember, we're talking about the point of sale here. And at that point, it was still a gamble. I think he was 21 and he'd only played one full season. In case I'm unaware, Leeds Derby, 19th of July. That's a Sunday. I will be here with a bottle of wine. Don't worry. Only kidding. Real Madrid C squad. And Badger makes my point for me there. The thing is, refs rarely give a free kick unless a player goes to ground. Exactly right. Jack, go and subscribe on Talk Norwich City. Amazing channel there. Why have I got so little subscribers? They don't know what they're missing. One of the best football shows I've seen on YouTube. Keep up the great work. Come on, lads, hit that like button. Thank you, Grey Area. That's very kind. I would like to think if I continue the hard work, numbers will come. Remember, we're a championship channel as well, so we're not talking about the big clubs, which draws those big numbers. But that's very kind indeed. And anybody in the chat now, please hit the thumbs up button. Right, we're going to go in just a minute. Lana says, Sessegnon, same as Jack Clark, must do better. God. Now, of all the things Bielsa's done, that was the best deal of them all, wasn't it? 10 million in for Jack Clark, a loan back. Okay, the loan didn't work out. And got Helder Costa in. Paul Spurs pants down on that. Right, thank you all so much for watching. In the words of Dido, my tea's gone cold. But I'm not wondering why, because I've sat here for 2 hours. Andrew says, confirmed, Mitro has his buzz cut back. Goals inbound. There you go. And Badger says 40 to 50 million for Grealish. Wow. Jack is here. Do you think Forest win this weekend? Got a few pennies on them. Who have they got, Jack? Preston away. I had them by 1 goal to win, Jack. So, yes. But you work for the Racing Post, so you know way more about gambling than I do. Right, guys, thank you so much for supporting the stream. As it says down the bottom there, you can support the channel via the super chat button. You can do that even if you're watching on delay. You can subscribe on Patreon, but it is totally free to hit the like button or leave a comment as well. Let's do some shout outs, especially to Florence, who says, my hair looks fabulous. Shout out to Mike, Logan, Irene, Loyal, Leeds there. Funny story how Grealish tried to pull Laura Woods. There we go. Get back on the vino, far better than the cold tea. Guys, I've loved it. As usual, one of the best places for championship chat. And what I've loved today is having a debate, everyone agreeing, everyone disagreeing, but no one being a pillock in the chat here. Well done, you lot, for keeping up free speech and not being, am I allowed to say snowflakes? Because none of you are. Brilliant stuff. Right, thank you so much for watching. I will likely be back tomorrow. What are the Sky games tomorrow? I've got no idea what's going on. It's Derby Brentford one. I'll definitely do Derby Brentford if it's one. No, I guess it's West Brom late, but I'll probably do Derby Brentford. Get back to the wine, you old Jakey. I think, Mally, we're going to be back tomorrow for whatever the first game is. Noel, thank you. He says, love all the content. Brilliant stuff, Noel. Great subscriber. Thank you. And you all are. Right. See you next time. Thanks for watching. Shout out to Adam. Ewan confirms that it'll be Derby Brentford. Crazy Game says, we love you too. Thank you very, very much. The support, overwhelming. I would love to do this full time. Ben's awoke. No, I'm not. Absolutely not, Alex. But I know you're just winding me up there. Have a good and banter and all. Love it. Absolutely love it. Thank you all for watching. See you tomorrow. Keep up the support. And Derby Brentford. Well, I've got to go and deliver some cakes for Shaylee, but we'll figure out the schedule in a minute. And thank you to you and great subscriber there as well. Always gets involved. Right. 2 hours, 3 minutes. Jesus Christ, my voice. Right. Thank you for watching. See you soon. Over and out. Bye.